And we are live. It's actually working today, not having the repeat of what happened
Poggers.
Saturday night.
Yes, yes. That was
Greetings.
a tragedy.
Because Saturday we didn't get to do the Star Wars game because I could not get this thing to
Sad
work.
times. Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of, would we be able to tomorrow?
Yes. Hopefully, I will
Sweet.
be feeling a hell of a lot better.
Let's hope Logan doesn't go through with his plan.
Oh, why? What's his plan? Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. We best not to talk about it right now because of spoilers.
Yeah.
And I'm
He
not
also.
talking about the car kind, even though those ones are pretty dope.
Yep. Well, today we've got three subjects we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the Afrikaner refugees coming to the United States and what's been going on in South Africa with them that's causing them to become refugees and needing a place to go, and how this is not a new thing. It's been happening for well over a decade now. We're also going to be talking about the the fuckery that's going on with Nintendo with what they're doing with the new Switch. And we're going to be talking about the creative bankruptcy going on with AI over at Lucasfilm.
And then last but not least, we will having a special segment on how my toes are extremely cold right now.
That's because you're outside right now, son.
Yep.
Oh, but yes, we are here to have a
Although
talk.
I do have a really good view of the sky, I can see the Big Dipper right above me.
Well, we are going to be talking about these things, and yes, some of it is really messed up, but these are some subjects that we do love to talk about, especially when
And
it
I'm
comes.
here for moral support and comedic relief.
Yep. Now, first off, let's hit the Nintendo Switch, because that to me is a pretty good, easy rolling start.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight from what y'all told me before we got started. Nintendo is gonna be making it to where you don't actually own the games, or is it?
They're gonna make it so the digital copies in the actual game, it's just a key to unlock the game to download it digitally.
Yeah.
Literally all the SD card is that comes with it in the physical version is just a access key to be able to access the game. It has literally no value. It doesn't have like any game stuff on it. It's just giving you the right to like get it through like digital.
You remember how those back in the day they used to have those little pieces of paper with codes on them in DVD boxes to download digital copies of movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's literally that. It's literally that, but it is a physical card that you put into your Switch.
Yeah.
That seems to be a waste of resources.
It is, and in Australia, things like
At that point, just don't make physical copies.
Yeah, in Australia, things like that, and their threats to brick modded Switches are straight up illegal.
Yeah. Because they're trying to say that when you purchase a Nintendo Switch, you're not purchasing the actual console, but the right to use it. You're not actually buying the console, you're only buying permission to use it.
That's not how it works.
That's what I've heard.
That's oh God, that's really screwed up. I mean,
yeah.
Let me see if I can find a.
Because when you buy, to me, if you buy a game console, be it an Xbox, a Nintendo, a PlayStation, or whatever, that's your property. It's one of the reasons why when I heard about somebody that they canceled out their membership to some basically made it to where they couldn't have their saved games no more.
Hmm.
They got rid of all their saved games and all the digital stuff that they had. And I'm like,
Okay. So I have right here on the Merriam-Webster website
uh-huh.
the definition of the word buy, where Nintendo's logic is buying isn't owning. That is not what it says here. The dictionary definition from Merriam-Webster's dictionary is literally to acquire possession, ownership, or rights to use, or rights to the use or service of by payment, especially of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally acquire possession or ownership. Ownership, right there in the definition.
Then why are they acting like all you're doing is renting it? Because that's how it sounds like they're wanting to do it.
I might be mistaken, but I heard somewhere where it straight up just says that they're saying that you're practically buying the right to like rent the stuff on it.
Yeah, that's how the way they're describing it.
Yeah.
It just does
Especially with the whole Nintendo Online stuff, like having to rent out the ability to play online.
Yeah. It's a load. It is a big load of crap. And the only reason I even have a Nintendo Switch currently is for the sole reason of it was given to me by a friend as a birthday present years ago.
I got a Nintendo Switch years ago, like back in like 2017 when I got it for Christmas.
Yeah. And even
That was a
the
pretty
Switch
dope
I
Christmas, not gonna lie.
even the Switch I have is a Switch Lite. It's not a regular Switch.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at this from everything you guys are describing to me. It's like even though I've bought a lot of games off of Steam, it aggravates me that I can't play my games that I have on Steam if I don't have internet connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for some games it makes sense because they would be like online games to play with other people, which would need an internet connection.
Yes.
But if it's like a normal game that's single player, that's kind of taking the mick.
Yeah, because it's like if I was referring to like my Fallout 76, that's a game you have to be online to be able to play. But my Fallout 4, that's a single player game. I shouldn't have to require an internet connection for that.
Yeah.
And from what really gets me is there's so many of these console gamers that have told me about how if they decide to discontinue a game, they can remove it from your console.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And I'm like, what? Why? That's ridiculous. If you own a game, you should be able to play it. I mean, I still have the CDs and stuff like that of some of the games that I bought back in the day. The old Lucas gaming, where you were playing the early Clone Wars.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I've still got those DVDs to be able to put them into a computer and play it. Now, if you've got a console, and that's the thing about all these digital gaming systems where you're downloading all those things. And
Battlefront 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 2.
that's the
The
one.
original Battlefront 1 and 2. Not the
I bet you ain't got no GameCube games.
I don't have a GameCube.
Haha. I do. I have 2 of them.
Ha ha, young.
Haha, old. Haha, broke boy. Haha, get on my level.
But like I said, I'm looking at this stuff, and it's like if you buy a game, even if it is a digital game, you own that game. They should not be able to take it away from you. It's just like with the stuff with Amazon and Kindle. Okay, they did this on Kindle a while back, where they were taking books that people had bought on Kindle and removed it from their Kindle libraries. And because the books were considered, we don't want to have anything to do with selling those anymore, even though they had sold them in the past, and so thus they were removing them.
Yeah.
My
And,
feet are getting way too cold. I'm going inside.
all right.
Here's the kicker, though. I've recently learned Sony actually tried to do this same thing years ago with the PlayStation 3, and it backfired spectacularly.
Would imagine so. Hello.
And again, in some parts of the world, it's just straight up illegal, especially in regards to, they put it in their end user license agreement that they have the right to essentially destroy your Switch if they determine it's been modded. They've also put in their end user license agreement that you cannot legally sue them if they do.
Well, what?
Yeah, I'll let that soak in. They pulled a Disney. They took a page out of Disney's book.
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably going to happen one company at a time because how greedy people are getting nowadays.
Well, the whole thing with
they're
Disney.
Crossing the line. Hang on a second, I gotta take this call.
All right.
Yeah, this person keeps calling me over and over again.
Is that your ringtone?
Yes.
All right.
Weird.
Okay. The whole thing with the Disney he's referring to was, if you go to Disney and something happened, let's see, if I remember right, this is how it went. This man and his wife, they go to Disney.
Oh yeah, I heard of this.
Okay.
They
About the shellfish thing, and
allergy, yeah, and they weren't allowed to sue Disney because they had a free trial of Disney Plus that they didn't even go through with actually buying.
they didn't even. I think they said they didn't even know they had got the Disney Plus because it was a package deal or something.
No, what it was from what I remember, I think the woman who died, she had the Disney Plus subscription. He didn't.
Ah. Because I know that she had. It was a shellfish.
It wasn't even a full subscription. It was like a free trial.
Oh wow, that made it even worse.
Yeah. Eventually,
they didn't even go through with it. They never even got the actual thing. It was like just a free trial, and after that was done, they never actually purchased Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, here in about probably 10, 15 years, I can see Congress making some rules to curtail all this, because they're literally abusing the system grossly.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, well, you can't sue us because we're doing something illegal." They might as well put it in those words in their EULA. They might as well just straight up say, "We're doing this illegal thing, but you can't sue us for it."
Well, this really aggravates me because we are looking at where so many of these companies have gotten such big heads that they think they can get away with it. Mainly because of the fact many of them are transnational now, and they're operating all across the globe. They don't have, and used to be if you were operating in more than one country, you had to make damn sure when you're operating in that country, you're not doing stuff that violated their laws. It's like with American citizens, whenever we would go to other countries, we would be told, you still have to obey. Yeah, you're an American citizen, but you still have to obey these other people's laws.
Mm.
Just because you're in the United States, you got freedom of speech doesn't mean you get the ability to go and tell some politician in another country they're pieces of shit. It's one of the reasons why what happened in what was his name? Pinochet down in Chile. Some American lefties went down there to protest and caused problems with the police there. And then when police brutality happened, they started screaming, "I'm an American! I'm an American! I got the freedom to do all this stuff." And I'm sorry, you couldn't pull that. They couldn't have pulled that stuff off if they went to the Soviet Union either.
Oh, the Soviet Union would have done them far worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I said, it's one of those things of I'm looking at this as I'm not that I'm still learning about the whole video game culture. Okay, because I just play a couple of video games for fun, to relax and unwind, and to take my mind off of everything that's going on in the world. You know, it's one of those things of
Yeah.
this is how I'm escaping reality for a little while. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of these consoles. You know, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, the Switch is awesome because you can carry it around and everything." I'm like, "Oh, you mean like the Game Boy?" And they look at me funny. You guys don't know. You young people just don't get it. You know, the Game Boy really was a big thing back in the day.
It was
I think
revolutionary.
I think I had one of those. Well, not me, but my older sibling.
I had a Game Boy Pocket until my dad decided to pawn it to fuel his drug addiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not cool.
I had like multiple DSs though.
I actually
The 3DS, man.
one of my
The
coworkers,
DS were the best.
one of my
Then-
coworkers actually gave me a 3DS today, but I don't have a charger for it.
Bruh. I have a 3DS XL, but I don't have the charger for it, so I can't play with it.
But like I said, I mean, these when Game Boy came out, I didn't have the money for it, so I didn't think about it. I remember Sonic the Hedgehog was, and what was the other games that came with that? Because when I got out of the Navy, that console was big at the time, and my dad bought it for the family, and they would play that thing like you wouldn't believe on Saturday nights, Friday and Saturday night. Friday was movie night. Saturday night was gaming night, and they would sit. All of Laura Jane's friends would come over, and that was like 30, 40 kids showing up at the house to play video games. Mom was aces on Sonic the Hedgehog. Dad was really good with the shooting game. You know, had the one with the little dog that
Duck
laughed
Hunt.
at you. Yeah, he would do that one, and there was a racing game that he played that he was really good on. But Mom was the only one that could beat him.
Wait,
Oh,
Duck
I
Hunt
just
was-
want to say I might have to go in a little bit because my phone's on low percent.
All right, if you do have to go, know that I love you, son, and I hope you had fun on today's.
I do think I have like good 20 more minutes left.
All right, cool. I'm just letting everybody know.
Yeah.
That's cool. Let me see. But anyway,
yeah.
we played these games as a family, you know, and it was always something I wanted to do. That's one of the reasons why when I had the chance, I bought the Xbox that I bought. Uh, I bought it used at a GameStop, and it was the Halo Special Edition Xbox with Halo Special Edition controllers and everything else that went with it.
Mm. I had an
And
Xbox 360 and I had Halo 4 on it, but it was too scary for me at the time because I'm pretty sure I was like 9, and this dying was like so scary for me because I was a coward at that age, and I just got terrified when I saw the enemies, so I barely ever played it.
yeah,
Oh,
it's one of those things that I bought it in hopes of being able to do the game nights
I am
again,
back.
and that was why I bought it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way because when Dad passed away, nobody really wanted to come together and do stuff like that without Dad around. It's like your Aunt Becca posted earlier today about how much she's missing Mom and Dad, and about how much it's hurting her, and there's nothing much that we can do, to help because we're all missing them. That's the one thing about growing old is got to accept the fact that losing people is a natural part of life. It just
Yeah.
it's just hard sometimes to be able to do it. But the Nintendo doing this with the Switch just drives me nuts because what is the problem with having mods for games? I mean, it's one
They're
of the
just a
most
controlling company.
it's
Yeah.
the most natural. Well, I always thought Nintendo was the one that was the most fan friendly of the game companies.
No, Nintendo has always been the most strict. They have been the least fan friendly. Sega is the one you're looking for.
They're the ones that did Sonic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sonic.
I keep mixing them up because is Nintendo Mario or is that
Nintendo is Mario.
okay? That's what I thought. Uh, it just to me, whenever you buy a game, you should be allowed to do the mods to it because it's your game and you're playing it and you're making the game more fun for you to play. I would think that the companies would be like, hey, like how Lucasfilm used to be before the dark times, before they got bought by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy took over. Because
Yeah.
at one time, if you had a good idea for a fan film, you contacted Lucasfilm and said, I'd like to make a fan film about Star Wars, and this is my idea for the fan film. They would help you with the special effects. They helped you make the special effects for your fan film. I mean, Paramount didn't do that for the Star Trek guys. Hell, Paramount took the Star Trek guys to fucking court and made it to where we no longer get things like Continuing Adventures and Phase
That's
2.
dumb.
Yeah,
I mean,
Nintendo can be better compared to Paramount, where Sega is pre-Disney Lucasfilm.
yeah, because I mean, the whole fan thing, the fan film thing with the Star Trek, they've forced some of the most onerous rules for fan films. They can be no longer than 15 minutes. Was one of the ones that really got me. I'm like,
Only 15 minutes? That's barely a short film.
exactly, because there were fan films that were like 2 to 3 hours long. You had Star Trek Continues, which was also known as Star Trek Phase 2. It was a continuation of the original series done by the fans. Now, it wasn't just regular fans that were doing this. There were people that were connected to the original series. Bradbury's own son was part of it. James Doohan, the actor who played Scotty, his son was part of the production company and the cast playing his father's signature role of Scotty. And he looked just like his dad and sounded just like his dad, starring as his dad's character in the continuing adventures. The production quality of the show was even better than the original series. The special effects was top of the line. That put everything that they were doing with quote unquote new Trek to shame. They had the actors from various Trek series and projects that was coming and acting in these shows. John Delancey, the guy who played Q. You had Denise Crosby, who played Tasha Yar. You even had George Takei come back to play an elderly Sulu. You had he played Chekhov. His name's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't say it. Walter Koenig. Walter Koenig came back and played an elderly Chekhov. You had these people coming back to this franchise because they loved it, and the fans raised the money to pay them a salary so they could, make money to make that show. They weren't making money off of the show except for the actors that they were paying to come and star on their fan films. And it's ironic that it was Star Trek was the first franchise to inspire fan movies, fan films. That's where that came from, was from Star Trek. And then Paramount turns around and guts it with such insane rules and stuff that J.J. Abrams, was making the new Star Trek movies. He tried to stop Paramount from doing all of that. He failed at it, but he was against Paramount going after the fan film community because he saw what it was. He saw that was basically spitting in the face of the fandom that had kept Star Trek alive for all of these decades. And to me, it's one of those things to where it's free advertising for your franchise. And hold on a second, guys. I need to do something right quick. Get down from there. Get down.
Was that a taser?
Yep. I fire it up. I pop it up
He
in the air.
tasing the cats.
Whenever the cats get up onto places that they know they're not supposed to, I turn my taser on.
Somebody get up in here. He loves a good bit of fried cat.
Yeah, but I'm not touching the cat with it. That's the deal. It's just the noise scares them, and they know not to get.
I have to stop for just a second. I was looking at Facebook just now, and I saw this. We were talking about Nintendo. Apparently, somebody made an unofficial dating app for Smash Brothers players.
Yeah.
And Nintendo cease and desisted it.
Yeah, that's
not surprised.
I'm not surprised. This is something where I can honestly see them doing this. But still, that's you probably heard me laughing a minute ago. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah. It sounded like you were crying, to be honest.
I was trying not to laugh. But you know how that happens. The more you try not to laugh, the funnier something becomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, like I
Well, I
said,
think I'm gonna head out now. My phone's gone like pretty low.
all right.
All
I
right.
love you,
See
son.
ya.
Love you too, Dad. Bye.
Hey, y'all. All right, now for the Lucasfilm part. Since we're talking about fan films and stuff,
Yeah.
go and how Lucasfilm they used to have a really good policy when it came to the fan community and fan films. They actually helped the fans make fan films and helped with special effects. And the funny thing is, they actually use that as a farming technique to find people to hire. Uh, there, back in the day, there was a couple of high school kids that were doing lightsaber battles videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and they ended up paying for them to go to school because those fan films, they were doing all the special effects themselves. They did not ask for the help from Lucasfilm, but they had drawn enough attention at that point in time that Lucasfilm decided to send them to school and hire them because they were that good at it. And Lucasfilm did. They had the best policy for when it came to how to interact with the fan community because they supported the fans because the fans supported them. It was also free advertising for Star Wars. It kept Star Wars going. I mean, I've talked about this before on other channels about the fact that if it hadn't been for the West End Games D6 Star Wars role-playing game, Star Wars probably would have died uh, because they kept the interest in Star Wars going. And whenever a new novel came out, they would make a source book for the novel for the role-playing game.
Yeah.
And it got to a point to where if you were a new writer who was coming in to write for a Star Wars novel, what they would end up doing is give you a stack of these source books for the role-playing game and say, here you go. Boom. That's all the novels that have come before you that's been boiled down to their basic information. So any new writer, all they had to do was read through these source books to get an idea what came before. So when they wrote their novels in the extended universe, they knew what worked and what didn't. And it kept everything going. It kept the creative process high, if you know what I mean here. I mean,
Yeah.
it kept people interested. It kept people striving to do better and make something even better than what came before it, and just kept building on what the previous foundation's building blocks and made better and went higher and higher and higher and kept trying to achieve something more. And then you showed me of the articles that all I can say is they're using AI in a very creatively bankrupt way. It's so basic that any
Yeah.
everyday person using one of those half-assed AI programs can do better stuff. And I'm still in that what mode because I've been watching the AI babies where they take parts from movies or podcast and they run it through a filter and it turns all the people in the videos into little babies.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. Watching Cheech and Chong as babies is funny as all get out. Especially when they're talking about being high. That was but I like Cheech and Chong. Go figure. But tell me more about this article that you found that just I'm like, what the heck?
I'm actually DMing you the pictures right now that I'm seeing in the article.
Yeah.
So I just sent those to you over Discord, so you can look at those.
All right. Oh,
So,
wow. That's the pictures that they used?
from reading the article, I think what it was is it's like a 2-minute video, and these are just some of the animals that are described in the article. There's a blue lion. There's described a blue lion, a pink iguana, walruses, walruses with chunks of octopus on them. Let's see. They have a most quote a mostly normal sloth with bits of rock sticking out of its fur.
Okay, that sounds like something out of Fallout 76 because they've actually got mega sloths that's walking around with what looks like rocks and mushrooms growing out of their backs.
Yeah. Yeah. This is exactly why I am against the use of AI in mainstream. Keep it limited to chatbots and stuff like that. Chatbots and those really annoying call center AIs.
Yeah.
But AI, for exactly this reason, has no business in creative media. It's stupid.
It looks like it's being it's like it's half-assed, you know?
It's not even half. It's dare I say it's half and half assed. But I'm gonna take a quote here. Says apparently the project is something field guide.
Mm-hmm.
It says quote, field guide is, to be frank, embarrassing. And these pictures are proof of that. It says, despite the triumphant Star Wars score, ILM's foray into AI generation didn't produce anything remotely compelling or even particularly alien.
Yeah, I mean, they all look like something you would actually could have possibly ended up showing up.
Yeah. And at the end of this paragraph, it says, quote, and none of it makes me feel anything because why would I care about a barely fake creature, essentially just two existing animals smushed together, which nobody bothered to make themselves. End
Exactly.
quote.
Because to me, okay, one of the reasons why science fiction and fantasy is such a big deal is the fact that the creatures you're creating 9 times out of 10 are usually supposed to be something that it's just completely out there. It's like so the creatures that they made for Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, okay? You can see where some of the animals they created have a basis in terrestrial animals. Like in Jedi Survivor, there's a pack animal that's basically a giant bird, flightless bird. But it's a heavy set bird that you can actually see somebody riding it like it was a horse. And that's actually a staple in science fiction and fantasy. What's his name? There's a French artist that did a whole bunch of that artwork back in the day. If you see the movie poster for the movie Wizards, that's the cover. Boom! It was a dude with a mask over his face riding a chicken.
Hey, Shrubby.
Howdy, Shrubby. It's all right. You just missed us talking about the Nintendo Switch. But anywho, I mean, if you're going to do this, do it right. I mean, I've seen people that have been using the AI program for artwork that have been doing some really cool stuff. I mean,
look at Thetazord. Look at Thetazord.
yeah, Thetasword's been able to make some really good stuff using the those AI programs that he uses for his videos.
Is it perfect? No, but it still looks amazing.
Yeah, and
you can tell effort was put into it.
Yeah.
Unlike what we're seeing here, Lucasfilm.
I swear to God, man, it's like, did George Lucas and Steven Spielberg pee in her Wheaties or something at some point when they were working together?
I feel like Cheech and Chong might have peed in her Wheaties, because this is something you could only come up with if you were high enough.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, it's like if this was just incompetence, there'd be something awesome popping up,
Yeah.
That she had something to do with, but almost everything she's had something that she's touched has been pretty bad. And then whenever they did have something that she had nothing to do with that came out, oh my God, this is awesome, i.e. Mandalorian, she then touched it and fucked it up.
Yep.
And
the only thing she didn't touch were the 2 animated series that came out, Clone Wars and Rebels. Both of those were amazing.
Well, Clone Wars she couldn't touch because it was already in production and already had its own thing. And Rebels she didn't touch because, well, it was its own thing, and it was part of the animated part that she wasn't interested in. Which goes to tell you a whole lot. I mean, the funny thing is the Clone Wars and Rebels, it captured the feel of Star Wars greatly, and it filled in a lot of blanks. It's still the fans love it. That's one of the reasons why I get so aggravated when they try to say, "Oh, the fans just don't like strong, powerful women," and I'm like, "Are you flipping high?" Let's see.
So the fans don't like Leia. The fans don't like Hera. The fans don't like Mon Mothma.
Exactly. Padme. I mean, Star Wars has always had strong, powerful women in it.
Yep, and they've always been in the forefront. They've always been leaders of some degree.
Exactly. They weren't girl bossing it because girl boss doesn't. It breaks the suspension of disbelief. Yes, there are some badass women out there. I mean, look at Ahsoka.
Yep.
And
even moving outside of Star Wars, Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley.
Yes. But that was girl bossing because she had no choice. Plus the fact she wasn't rubbing people's noses in it while she was doing it because, well, she was trying to survive. She wasn't trying to show nobody up. She just was out there to survive. And to me, that goes to say a lot about this, because most of this, when we talk about girl bossing nowadays, we're referring to where the woman is so perfect, she doesn't have to grow. There's no growth. It's like, that was my problem with Rey. There was no growth. She just knew how to do everything.
Yeah.
And
Rey, you have her flying the Millennium Falcon the microsecond she gets in it. That's a load of crap.
And she knew exactly what buttons to flip to counter something that was going wrong with it.
Yeah, and after her own admission earlier in the movie that she didn't know how to fly.
Yes. Now, that right there really gets to me because, what about Luke? I'm sorry. The only thing Luke was good at from the very start was being a pilot. He was hit and miss when it came to the Force. and he had to get training in the Force. She really didn't get no training in the Force.
Yeah. I mean, Luke was powerful in the Force. Anakin was powerful in the Force.
But they
But they
still needed
both
to be
had to
trained.
be trained.
Exactly. And I'm looking at a lot of this stuff, thinking about how you can do it right. The one thing that I loved about Rogue One, Jen Erso, her character at first came across as, I'm a rebel because I'm going to be a rebel. I.e., what am I rebelling against? What you got for me to rebel against?
Yeah.
That to me was kind of
Off-putting.
off-putting. But all in all, the movie was good, especially after you found out one of the reasons why she was the way she was the fact that her father's the dude that designed the Death Star laser.
Yeah.
And what she went through and what she witnessed. And
Rogue One is the one and only live-action piece of Star Wars that Disney has made that actually has a concrete place in the timeline that makes sense with a plot that makes sense.
Yep.
If only they had an uncanny valley Leia at the end.
Yeah. Though I like the fact that her line at the end of it was, well, what is this? It's hope. And that right there led right into
A New Hope.
A New Hope. And I mean, the whole opening scrawl from the first Star Wars movie was Rogue One. Though I kind of wished in many ways that Rogue One would have been the story of how they got the plans for Death Star 2 instead. That way you could actually witness the whole many Bothians died to get us this information.
Yeah.
Because in many ways, that's what Rogue One was all those people that died to get that information.
Yeah. Rogue One, a lot of people did die, yes. But in the second Death Star, in the plot to get the second Death Star's plans, a lot more people died. Because there was a lot more at stake.
Yeah, and they had to do it. They had to go through a whole lot more to find it and get it.
Yeah.
And to me, that would actually be. Andor has proven that they could pull off a cloak and dagger type Star Wars. Mandalorian proved what George Lucas had always said and always wanted to do, an underworld TV show in the Star Wars universe. And they proved it can be done. It's just the fact that they don't have the writing staff and the creative staff, for that matter now, to actually pull it off. They've ran off all the good storytellers. But that's a problem at Disney itself. Now, from what I've seen about the live action Lilo and Stitch, I've got high hopes for all the behind the scenes stuff that I've seen.
Yeah.
And
the live action Lilo and Stitch looks amazing. Especially compared to something like Snow White, which is objectively according to many mainstream media sources, the single worst piece of cinema in history.
Well, when I saw the CGI dwarves, I was like, no.
Yep. They're not even dwarves. They're garden gnomes. Ugly looking garden gnomes. They tried to make They tried to make them look like the ones from the original Snow White. But this is a situation where maybe that wasn't the best idea.
Yeah. Uh, all because of Peter Dinklage showing his ass. And of course, there's a whole lot of, well, they get called little people, but most of the people that I know that have dwarfism refer to themselves as midgets and dwarves, and they can't. Every one of them that I've talked to can't stand Peter Dinklage for what he did. They describe it as he climbed up the ladder and then he took a chainsaw and destroyed the ladder so nobody else could climb it as well.
Yep.
And that really pissed them off. And I totally get it. I really do, because
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he was walking down the street and he had a whole bunch of his own people trying to mug him.
It wouldn't surprise me none, because to me, Brad Williams was on a podcast talking about it. He says, when you're like me, there's not that many roles out there for you when you have dwarfism. Now, I will give Peter Dinklage credit. He has done roles that the character wasn't a dwarf in the script, and he pulled it off.
Yeah.
There's this one where he plays a librarian in a post-apocalyptic thing where a disease wipes out like 98% of the population.
Yeah.
And he did really good in it.
Was the name of that movie 2020?
I think so.
I was joking. That was a reference to the 2020 bug.
Well, I can't remember the name of it. I just remember watching it online. It was what when I have insomnia, I can be awake for a long time. Jim and Nadine used to freak out over the fact that I would be awake for days on end. And Jim would take me to my doctor and say, please, for the love of God, give him back his Ambien, because he's been awake now for 6 days and he's starting to see shit. And so I would watch all kinds of movies and TV shows trying to turn my brain off so I could go to sleep. And insomnia is not fun, boys and girls. If you have it, get help.
Yeah.
TBI is not something to sneeze at. Big time. It's not something to sneeze at. It's not something to make fun of. It's something that you shouldn't pity either, but you should be understanding of people who suffer it. Too many people nowadays don't get what it is. Yeah, that's true, Shrubby.
My aunt has had insomnia issues for years and years and years. She worked as a distributor and carrier for Sprint for years. Mm-hmm. So she had 6 to 8 cell phones in her purse at any given time.
Yeah.
And that ended up doing terrible things to her health, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I can't remember the study that they were talking about, certain cell phones producing radiation that affected people's personalities. But that's neither nor there. I don't know enough about it to talk about it.
Yeah.
Other than to say, hey, this is a study that got made, and I don't know anything more about it. But like I said, the special effects that everyday people, that are dabblers, amateurs, are doing is almost as good, if in some cases not better than what we're seeing coming out of professional TV shows and movie studios now. I mean, look at Axanar, the special effects that they've been able to come up with for Axanar. That was blowing the doors off of what Paramount was doing with New Trek. And it's ironic that the computer technology has gotten to a point to where everyday people who are amateurs at it, who are dabbling with this technology, is able to make special effects that is rivaling or even better than these big companies. And oh wow, did not know that, Bubba. Do you see this?
Oh, I'm actually trying to get out of that channel, and my Discord is frozen on me for some reason.
But yeah, but anyway, that's where we're at on that one. I mean, I can't believe how creatively bankrupt Lucasfilm has gotten, and they've replaced so many of the creative people from Lucasfilm. They ran them off. I mean, but Disney did that with Pixar. They did it, hell, at Marvel. And in many ways, I think that came about because of them trying to push Disney Plus to be Netflix when it should never have been Netflix. It should have been the Disney Vault. All their old stuff to where you could stream it. And to me, that was money they left on the table. I mean, they really, pardon my French when I say this, they really screwed the pooch in the bad way. Well, there's no good way to screw the pooch, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But they just really screwed a good concept that they could have made money hand over fist if they would have kept their original statement that Disney Plus would be the vault where you could watch all the old movies, all the old TV shows, all the old cartoons, all the stuff that they hadn't put out on DVD or Blu-ray because they didn't think that it would make money. If they would have done this, they would have made the money hand over fist, because I know for a fact there are people out there who would have signed up for the streaming service just so they could stream Song of the South. I'm sorry, it's not racist. The Uncle Remus stories were stories that were created by the slaves themselves to retell all of the stories from their African heritage in a new way that they could tell it and keep that culture alive. Okay? And to say that, oh God, I'm sorry, but all these ignorant lefties trying to force their today morals and biased way of viewing the world on the past is doing nothing but destroying everything that built the world that we have today, that gave us the freedoms we have today.
Yeah.
And
all the hard work that our forefathers put into giving us, all the literal blood, the literal oceans of blood that were shed
that ended
within
slavery.
Just a few years, within just a few years are going to be completely in vain.
It already is. That's the part that's got me so upset. I mean, it's gotten to a point to where people are tired of entitlement mentalities. There's a woman that called a little child the N-word that made a fortune off of a crowdfunding site to give her support. Okay, people are fed up with this stuff. They're fed up with the racism. They're fed up with the race baiting. I'm sorry. When I was a child, we didn't look at each other for the color of our skin. The people I played with, that I lived with, there was an American Indian of Cherokee heritage, because hey, we're in North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina. Guess what? There's a lot of Cherokee that live up here. There were blacks. There was Asians. Oh God, it just really frustrates me. If I wished I still had the photos from when I was a kid, and the guys that, whenever summer hit, all of our parents would kick us out of the house and say, now go play, be back here before sundown. And we would go do whatever the heck we were going to do all across the mountain, and getting ourselves into all kinds of trouble. And thank God if there were cell phones back then where you could record the crazy stuff that you was doing, there would be a whole lot of us that in my age category that would be living on deserted islands, because we would be so ashamed of some of the crazy stuff that we got ourselves into back then.
Yep.
And I mean that. I'm talking, there's politicians out there that grew up when I grew up that would be going, I can't run for political office because I did this, I did this. I was jumping my bicycle from one mountain cliff to the other mountain cliff, and the whole time doing it, screaming, all kinds of crazy stuff, and talking shit. You know, it's like I said, we did crazy stuff as kids. And
yep, it's like we were talking about last week. When you see that street light turn on, you better get back to house before mom finds you and beats your butt.
Exactly. Most of the time, though, it was more along the lines of they would get home and clear their throat as they were walking up the steps to the house. And you felt that thing through the force, man.
Oh, yeah.
People laugh about Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, I just felt something through the force. No. Any child from the 70s and 80s and early 90s can attest to that fact, that when mom and dad got home and they cleared their throat when they were standing on the steps of the house, you felt that no matter where you were at on the planet.
Yep.
And you knew it's time.
I still have that ability to this day.
you haul butt to get home.
Yep.
But like I said, I don't understand how, or actually I can't understand how. I just don't understand the why people want to keep us at loggerheads with each other with hate. I'm sorry. Hate is hate. It's like I have said before. A pile of shit, a box of shit, and a bag of shit. The only difference between those three piles of shit is the container holding them.
New package, same product.
Exactly. Hate is that. It does not care what color of the skin of the body that it's in. It doesn't care what genitals that body has. Hatred is hatred. Racism is nothing more than pure, unadulterated, irrational hatred.
Yep.
And like I have said before, when you have an uncontrollable, irrational hatred, it will overwhelm your rational mind and your common human decency.
Well, you can't call it you can't say rational mind anymore, because because most people never had a rational mind in the first place.
Well, they did have one. The education system kind of destroyed it. by promoting all this racial division, by promoting this self-hatred. Yeah, Shrubby, you're right. It's crazy. I mean, we've got a walking around miniature Alan Rickman that would make the perfect young Snape, and they did not cast him. And that right there is, to me, incredible stupidity. I mean, what's his name again? He played Kylo Ren.
I know
Driver.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. He looks like Alan Rickman. If Alan Rickman was still alive, and if the casting people did not make an Alan Rickman with Adam Driver as a father and a son, somebody needed to lose a job, because the two of them looked that much related and alike. And I mean, I have been saying ever since I saw Adam Driver in The Force Awakens, if they ever redid Harry Potter, he should be Snape, because he looked like a young Alan Rickman, and he looks like Snape's description from the books. Okay.
Yeah, Adam Driver. I'm not fond of his role in the sequel trilogy, but he has mad talent.
Yes, he is an awesome actor. Oh God, like I said, he's one of those actors that he deserves some really good roles.
Oh yes,
because he's got his acting chops includes comedy. Only thing I haven't seen him do myself is singing and dancing.
Oh, I'm sure somebody somewhere will end up pulling that off.
Yeah. Now, since we've been talking about the irrational hatreds and things of this nature, then we're going to hit the big story that's got me burnt up, and that's the whole Afrikaans being brought here as refugees. And people saying, oh, they can't be refugees because they're white. They can't be the victims of genocide because they're white. I have been following what's been going on in South Africa for almost 20 years. What's been going on with the farmers. This isn't a new story. This has been happening. Laura Lerner, I think that's how you say, Loomer, I think that's how you say her name. She's got a set of documentaries where she's gone to South Africa, where she's gone to these farmers, interviewed them, shown what they've been going through, how their homes have been raided, invaded, and the brutality of the horrors that they have done to these people that make the worst slasher movies look G-rated.
That is quite an accomplishment.
Some of the people that she had interviewed, okay, you know what a crime scene cleanup crew is? The people that go in where somebody's been murdered and they clean up for it.
Yeah.
Well, she interviewed a group of those whose job was to go in where the farmers' homes were invaded and they were butchered, and what happened there, and how they had to clean it up. And the things that they described was beyond horrific and nightmarish. Boiling babies alive. The sexual mutilation and murder. The things that they get paid a whole lot of money to do it because of just the things that they've had to clean up and experienced. And the fact that they were talking about the fact that they have to go to therapy for it because of just how inhuman the things that they've experienced the cleanup of.
We need to bring
And
back. We need to bring back tarring and feathering.
yeah, but that's for the politicians and these people that are out there lying through their teeth about this stuff. I mean, there's journalists who know better, that know the truth, but they will lie about it because it doesn't fit their political viewpoint, their political ideology. We saw that with Biden. They covered up just how far gone Biden was for 4 years. And now they're running around saying, oh, we didn't know. Oh, we didn't know. Oh, we didn't know.
Bull
Well,
crap! You didn't know. The guy couldn't even read a freaking teleprompter without somebody pointing a finger at him.
Well, Shrubby, the Boers and the Zulus, yeah, they fought each other tooth and nail, but it's not the Zulus that are doing this stuff to the farmers. It's I can't remember the language group that's used for the non-Zulus in South Africa. It's the other group, not the Zulus that are doing all this. And it's actually being promoted by the South African government itself. They rewrote their constitution now to where they can take your land away if you're white and not give you any kind of compensation. And they have quotas for every position in a company that has to be filled. It's insane that what's going on in South Africa. And you can tell for a lot of the left in the United States, especially the ones on the news media, it's their hatred of white people, and it's on full display. There was this black woman on CNN sitting there saying, well, even if they are being oppressed, they have a way to leave the country. And the guy that was on the panel with her says, so they should be able to come to America. No, they should never come to America. They should go back to Germany. And the incredulous look this guy gave her was priceless, because it was so blatant that she was being a racist piece of shit that it's hard to believe that she couldn't realize she was a racist piece of shit. And
it is my experience. It is my personal experience. A narcissist will never be able to psychologically acknowledge themselves as a narcissist.
yeah,
Never. It is psychologically impossible.
But like I said, what's been going on in South Africa has been so messed up. Exactly, Shrubby. The Afrikaners are of Dutch descent. Yes, they absorbed a lot of Germans as well, but they were predominantly Dutch. They speak a form of the Dutch language that's not spoken anywhere else. It is an older dialect of the Dutch language that they speak. And their culture is fairly unique because their culture is surrounding the fact that they're farmers. They love farming. It's culturally part of them. The land becomes a part of them. They had been there for 400 years, and to act like they're they're a lot like the Amish, except for the fact that the Amish are pacifist. These guys, they've had to create Laura Loomer, one of Laura Loomer's documentaries was showing how they've had to create mutual self-help and defense pacts amongst themselves. That because going back to the days of apartheid, the apartheid government was trying to find ways of keeping all of the different African tribal nations from going to war with each other all the time. So they put the farmers between their territories and would fortify the homes of the farmers and gave them radios and said, if you see these guys trying to cross your land to go attack these guys, call in the Air Force. And the Air Force would get the call and fly over and see them and try to convince them to go back home and not go fight. And then if they wouldn't turn around and go back, then they would strafe them. That sort of thing was what was going on in an attempt to keep people from going at each other. And when apartheid ended, apartheid was evil. There's no other way of putting it. Any way of utilizing race as a means of control, a means of division, that's pure, unadulterated evil in my book. There are no right answers to this. There are no wrong answers. Well, yes, there are wrong answers. There's a shit ton of wrong answers. But when you have a situation that is so complicated that even people who have lived their entire lives can get into arguments over whether or not something works or not, outsiders like us, all we should really be doing is looking at it going, holy shit, that's fucked up. I don't want to be there. And whenever somebody's being murdered just because of the color of their skin, I don't care what color that skin is. I will do whatever I can to help get them out of that situation. A few years back, Australia needed farmers because not enough Australians were going into farming. And they actually offered to take in these farmers who were going through this shit as refugees. They had it all lined up. And at the last minute, they stopped doing it because of the political pressure stopping them from doing it. There had been multiple attempts to get the Afrikaners out of South Africa. And Trump is the first one to actually do it. Just like he was the first one that actually carried out the promise of moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem where it belonged. Now, I know there's a lot of people who don't like Trump because, well, he's got mean tweets. I don't like the way he acts towards people. He acts like a bully at times. You're
and
looking
he
at
needs to make sure he needs to learn to keep his mouth shut.
Well, they're putting style over substance. They're putting their feelings over the facts because the things that Trump has accomplished makes up for him being a jackass in my book. Yes. Sometimes you need a jackass to pull shit off. Go look up George S. Patton. Even he admitted he was an asshole. Okay? Sometimes that's what you need to get the job done.
Yep.
And for far too long on the international stage, we've allowed ourselves to be pretty fucked over. And, well, the whole thing with Nixon, he wasn't a crook. He just got screwed over. And Eisenhower could be an asshole. Biggest reason why most people didn't like Nixon was the fact that he was such an anti-communist and he supported McCarthy in taking out Adlai Stevenson and what was the other guy's name that they were saying that he was he was too tight with the Soviet Union and the communists in the United States, and turns out after the Soviet Union collapsed and they opened up the KGB archives, a whole bunch of Western news media went over there and said, "Oh, we're going to prove all that was lies." And they get over there and open it up and find out that McCarthy and Nixon was right, but they were also wrong because they didn't go far enough on just how much the infiltration had went.
Yeah.
Yes, Nixon learned how to play dirty tricks. When that's true, he could play some dirty fucking tricks. But Eisenhower also played some pretty dirty tricks because he refused to carry out Roosevelt's orders when taking over Germany at the end of World War II, because Roosevelt's orders was to destroy all industrial. Because Roosevelt's original plan was to completely deindustrialize Germany and turn it into a place of farmers, and that was it. But that's neither nor there. If anybody ever wants to talk about some of the fucked up shit about World War II history that nobody talks about, we can definitely go into that. Because because the Germans wanted to surrender, the German people themselves wanted to surrender a long time before surrender actually happened, mainly because of the fact they knew that they were pretty much fucked by a certain point of time. But Roosevelt kind of prolonged the war by allowing people in positions of power to go out saying, "Oh, we need to completely eradicate the German people from the face of the earth, and Germany must die." Things of this nature that was put out. It allowed Goebbels to use that as propaganda that basically radicalized the Germans who were anti-Nazis and anti-Hitler and wanted Hitler gone. Basically radicalized them enough to where they became fanatical defenders of Germany itself. But I'm going off on a tangent here. I got to stop. But when it comes to what's been going on with the Afrikaners, it's been bad. And the fact that their government refuses to admit it's happening, mainly because of the growth of the EFF. The dudes that are sitting there filling up entire stadiums screaming, "Shoot the Boer, kill the farmer," blah, 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 all this racist BS that they spew there. Well, the people in power are afraid of if they come down on that the people that have this irrational hatred for the Afrikaners, blaming people who weren't even alive during apartheid for the sins of apartheid that's been over for decades. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Yep.
Okay. They're afraid that if they try to combat that, it's going to cause a bigger split and they will lose power and have people go over to the EFF and make things even worse. Not realizing somebody needs to grow a pair and stand on basic moral principles and human common decency and say, we're all equal and we need to start working together. Because right now, the infrastructure in South Africa is crumbling. It's falling apart. The engineers that know how to fix the stuff they won't hire because of their skin color. And there's a Kenyan, I can't remember his name. I was watching a video of him today where he was interviewing a black man that was from Nigeria and a black woman that was from Ghana. And they were talking about the fact that, not counting North Africa, which is predominant, the people up there aren't really sub-Saharan African peoples. Talking about the fact that in many of these countries, when the Europeans left, they left a lot of infrastructure that no longer exists because it did not get maintained. And he was talking about how in most African languages, there is no word for maintain or maintenance. And the fact that it's just culturally outside of many of these areas. That's not me saying this. This is what this guy said. And it was different listening to it. And the fact that, because that was one of the things that these three people were talking about, was what was going on with the Afrikaners, and then being finally given refugee status in the United States. Now, Trump's not the first one to try to do this. He's just the first one who actually accomplished it. Like I said earlier, they tried to do this in Australia. Shrubby, do you remember how long ago it was? Because I want to say it was 10 years ago. Yeah, with India, what was going and that, but they were wanting to give them a place to go to, but the South African government threw a real big shit fit and caused it not to happen. And I'm like, hey, if you don't want these people in your country, why don't you just let them leave? Because you're wanting to take their farms away. Mugabe, I think that was his name, 6 years ago. Yeah, okay. Now, Zimbabwe in the aughts did something similar to what they're wanting to do now in South Africa. Yeah, Mugabe. This dude took away the white farmers' farms and gave them to all of his buddies who did not know jack shit about farming. And you can actually get, I think it's a $10 trillion bill from that's actual currency in Zimbabwe. Their economy crashed because they no longer had the ability to produce their own food. And they're repeating all the stuff that Mugabe did in Zimbabwe in South Africa. And there's a lot of former Zimbabwean people that live in South Africa that are black that were sitting there screaming, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We ain't got nowhere else to go. And it was a black lady that was, I think she was in the Laura Loomer documentary I watched, talking about the stuff that happened because of Mugabe and how her and her family, came to South Africa because of it. And she's like, I'm witnessing them do everything that Mugabe did, and there's nothing we can do. There's nowhere else for us to go. And she was worried, and she was worried about the Afrikaners and the white people of South Africa, because she remembers what happened in Zimbabwe and how they went after these people. And like I said before, if you don't want them in your country, let them leave. Hell,
Yeah. That's
just
the
let
same
them
way
go.
I feel about. That's the same way I feel about most of the people in this country.
Well,
If
I'm
you
to
don't
that.
love it, leave it.
Exactly. If you don't want to be here, nobody's stopping you from leaving.
The borders are open.
Now, I look at it. It's like the Trump administration saying, "Hey, if you self-deport, we'll give you $1,000 and a free plane ticket back to wherever it is you came from, and
Yep.
you can come back later." I'm willing to say to the people that are like, "I want reparations for slavery," completely ignoring the fact that the Freedman Bureau back after slavery did a good chunk of that with education and grants and things of this nature. Now, if you want reparations, I have a very simple concept for this in a simple platform. We make arrangements that you move to somewhere in Africa. You give up your American citizenship and your ability to ever come back for you and 3 generations of your of those that follow you. That's simple. Okay, we'll give you your reparations money. Boom, here you go. Goodbye. You know.
And just so you know, my internet's acting up.
Sorry, Bubba. But like I said, that to me, if you would accept that for reparations, good. I'm just to that point to where I'm sick and tired of people utilizing people's ignorance in history in this way and promoting hatred that is dividing this country needlessly. Why do you think whenever I close these things up, I talk about how we need more love in this world? Because we do. We need a lot more love in this world. Because we've got too many people who are making money on dividing us over stupid shit like the color of our skin, what gender you are, or what gender you want to be. We're all human. And the moment we forget this, we allow ourselves to become non-human. It's hard for me not to get upset because, like I have said before, I have seen man's inhumanity to man up close and personal. But I've also seen man being the most humane, caring, and kind and compassionate. I've seen people save the life of somebody who just tried to kill them because it was the right thing to do. That's humanity in the nutshell. We don't want to be monsters. On average, the average human wants everybody to live a decent life and be able to be everything they want to be. It's just, I don't want you hurting me. I don't want you hurting the people I care about. I don't even want you hurting strangers I don't even know. I don't like when I see that because I know what it's like to be on the receiving end. We as a species were made to be communal. We need each other. It's very rare to find somebody who can exist in complete isolation and alone. We are more than an animal. But when we allow ourselves to become nothing more than animals, we are debasing what we are. And to me, what's going on in South Africa and the way that you've got an entire political movement in this country reacting in such a racist manner to these people that are being butchered, being discriminated against, having their lives, their properties stripped from them just because of the color of their skin. And to stand against them being given a new place to go as a refugee just because of the color of their skin, you are invalidating your humanity card. You're allowing an irrational hatred to overwhelm everything else. And I wish you would stop. I wish you could step back, take the words that you have stated and replace white people can't be refugees with black people can't be. and then you would see the racism in it. That was one of the most simplest ways of is this, if I say this, is it going to come across as racist? All you have to do is switch the flipping race of the person you're talking about. And if it comes across as racist, guess what? It's racist.
It's racist.
Like I said before, hate is hate. It doesn't care the container that's carrying it. And all racism is pure, unadulterated hatred. So, stop it. Wake up. Grow up. Why do you think the Democrat Party's positive numbers are in the gutters? Which I don't want them here in my gutters because it's getting too crowded down here.
Wait, they have positive numbers?
Amongst other crazy people who hate Trump. Yeah. And racist, of course. But yeah. Those are the only people that they have positive numbers with.
Yeah. It's like how I remember years ago, about a decade ago, they started making an elective in like high schools and stuff like that where they taught people, oh, if you're a white person, you're automatically a racist because you're white. I'm like, how does that even make sense? If the way I see it, if you are the kind of person who has to blindly append a label to an entire group of people, then first you yourself must by necessity be the very thing you're accusing them of being.
Exactly.
That's exactly how it works.
It's like I told Nadine yesterday while we were on the way back from the Buc-ee's. When you point one finger at somebody, you're pointing 1, 2, 3 back at yourself. And for a lot of these people, they're accusing Trump and the Republicans of doing the things that they themselves are most definitely doing. Especially a lot of the corrupt stuff. I mean, why do you think they were losing their minds whenever Doge was finding all of the money that was disappearing and nobody knew where it was going, and they were finding that it was going to it was a money laundering scheme. And that right there to me is saying a whole lot about what's going on. Whenever somebody is uncovering corruption, whoever's screaming, you got to stop, that's the people responsible for the corruption. That's just basic common sense.
Yep.
And I'm to that point to where I'm looking at the world and I keep thinking we need to get, I totally agree with what George Washington said, okay, when he left office, because he did not like the concept of political parties. Because he said that will cause division and destroy everything that we were building as a country. Was the whole thing of developing these political parties.
Yep. And now division and destroying our country is exactly what they want.
Yes. And I'm looking at what's going on in this world and how everything he warned us about when he left office those hundreds of years ago has come true. We had another president who warned us about a lot of stuff that's come true, and that was Eisenhower when he left office, and he's the one that coined the phrase the military-industrial complex. Because, well, he was a military man. He was the general of the army who commanded bringing down the Nazis, you know. He saw it get created and he spoke out against it.
Yep.
And we really didn't listen at the time. And in many ways, we still aren't listening to this day, which sucks because we need to listen to. We're not learning from the mistakes of the past. We really aren't. And like it or not, a lot of this stuff is how Hitler came to power. I know that you've got the internet meme of anybody I don't like is Hitler, but this is actually how Hitler was able to come to power, by utilizing the Jews as the bad guy causing all these problems.
Yep. Throwing in the words of Michael Jackson in his song "Bad," throwing stones to hide your hands.
Mm-hmm. And by dividing us, by keeping alive these hatreds that have pretty much completely died out until Obama came into office and revived it. Revived a sense of entitlement, a sense of being oppressed amongst entire sections of our country, not just amongst the blacks. That's just the most, that was what he focused the most on. But it also included other minority groups that he focused on to create that division. And it goes back to a mindset of when you keep everybody against each other, it's easier to control them.
You'd call it nonsense of entitlement.
Yes. And I don't like that. To me, by dividing people, you create factionalization. And that can get out of control so fast, it will get out of the control of the people who have been trying to manipulate it for the past few decades. And that's what we're seeing today. Because a lot of these minority groups are breaking away from their handlers and their controllers. Because they're like, you've been saying this for decades and we're not seeing any improvements. Or worse, you've got some groups that are like, we're not getting enough, so we're pushing it even harder and further. And it's like anybody out there that can do a Google search of the Folsom Street Fair. I don't recommend doing this around children because of some of the stuff that went on there and goes on there. But there was this picture that I remember that had it was a pride event saying not to be performing sex acts in public or you'd get arrested. And there's a couple of cops standing underneath this sign looking away while in the foreground these dudes are getting it on in front of children. And the children's got this look on their face of, oh my God, what am I seeing? And this was a picture that I saw, oh God, almost 15 years ago. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. When you've got stuff like that going on and you're saying, oh, I'm oppressed, then if that's the case, why were you able to get away with it? And that scares me. But Voltaire made it a long time ago when he said, if you want to know who's got the real power in a society, look at who you can't make fun of.
Yep.
And in today's world, you can usually tell the strength of a society and a culture by the state of its comedy. Now, it's terrifying when you think about it. And because that's what happened in Germany. You know, you couldn't make jokes about the people in power, especially about Hitler. You just couldn't do it. That was verboten. Now, a lot of people don't know why Hitler came to power. There was a lot of stuff that went on before he came to power that did it. And the first trans surgery that was ever done was in the 1920s at the Institute of Sexology, I think it was called, there in Berlin, where they actually did the first, turned the dude into a woman by, they transplanted a uterus into him. And the guy died from gangrene.
Wow.
Slowly and painfully. A lot of people talk about the book burnings that the Nazis did. The Nazis appropriated that from college students and university students who started it because they were burning books that was promoting this stuff, and the Nazis adopted it. And it's there was a lady from Austria that came to the United States and was giving speeches about what it was like as a little girl and Hitler came to power and the cult of personality that surrounded him. Because that's what she was speaking out against, was cults of personality. And she called out the fact that that there was actors and other prominent celebrities and people that were doing commercials swearing their personal loyalty oaths to Barack Obama. And you had schools that were singing the praises of Obama. The teachers were teaching their preschoolers and their kindergartners to sing hymnal praises, but instead of to God, it was all praises to Obama. You had young boys from inner city boys doing these marching and stamping their feet and slapping their chest and everything, swearing their loyalty oaths to Obama. All signs of a cult of personality. And that's what she was speaking out against. And yes.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that last week.
Yep. And yes, Shrubby, there was a Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden put on by the American Bund.
Yep.
But there was also a big Ku Klux Klan rally that was also held there that was also part of the Democrat National Convention of that year, where they actually had Ku Klux Klan members in full robes and everything and torches marching down the street to go to it. They don't talk about that either. But there are pictures and video of it, of that, but you don't see them showing it anywhere. But yeah, go figure. But like I said, these Afrikaners are the very definition of refugees. They deserve their refugee status. Why were they able to be brought here so quickly? Well, South Africa is actually a country that's able to do background checks pretty well. Their infrastructure hasn't completely disintegrated like so many other countries like Afghanistan, because there are translators and their families still waiting to come to the United States after the fall of Afghanistan with the Biden withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we're still trying to make sure that the people that we're bringing over from Afghanistan are the people who we think they are. And people are trying to say it's all because of race that these white Afrikaners are being brought over so easily, completely ignoring the fact that the background checks is the reason why things are taking so long. And it frustrates me. It really does, because this is all about irrational racial hatred. And it's breaking my heart, because We're the United States of America. When somebody's needed help, we've helped them. Now, I admit one of the reasons why we had problems in Afghanistan and in Iraq was the fact that we promised them help and we never gave it to them until we absolutely was forced to. Yep, Shrubby, that's true. And most people don't know that there's a movie that Tom Hanks did called Charlie Wilson's War, where it showed how the United States helped the Afghanistani people resist the Soviet occupation. We made promises to the Afghanistan people that if once we got the Soviets out, we would help them rebuild. But the Clinton administration decided, in their great wisdom, to use the peace dividend and spend it on whatever it was that they spent that money on here in the United States on vote buying programs and projects, completely ignoring the fact, hey, we promised we was going to help them rebuild in Afghanistan, and didn't do it. And guess who stood up with his family's billions of dollars and international construction company to come in and help rebuild Afghanistan? Dude by the name of Osama bin Laden. And that's how the Taliban came to power. And the Northern Alliance that was allied with us was put on the outs. Was the fact that they kept, the Northern Alliance said the Americans are going to help us rebuild. And when we didn't, that completely blew their, what's the word I'm looking, their credibility amongst the Afghanistani people. Thus, the Taliban, who actually provided the support that they promised, got the support of the everyday people. And if you've seen pictures of what Afghanistan was like before this and now, you're like, holy shit, women actually wore mini skirts back then. And they could go to school back then. They got, everything that they got during the brief period of time when we were still there and before the Biden pullout completely destroyed their ability to go to school and be equal partners in society. But when we don't keep our word, that's what happens. Same thing with Iraq. We told the Iraqi people during Desert Storm, if you stand up, we will come in and liberate you. And then what did we do when they stood up? 2/3 of that country stood up. And what did we do? We stood by and watched them get butchered. When you don't keep your word, it's not gonna end well. This is what's gonna happen. And it's extremely important in both personal and professional life to keep your word. Because when it comes right down to it, all a person or a country is their word. Only thing that's backing up the US dollar is our word that we will honor it. That's the same way with anything. That is what political capital is keeping your word that you'll do what you promised you're going to do. If you don't do it, you lose it. And you end up in the world that we got today, a world that's at each other's throats. So I guess what I'm saying, boys and girls, is try to keep your word. Be honorable. Treat people with human kindness. And let's remember, this world needs a lot more love in it. And we're going to call it a day. And I hope you all enjoyed today's discussions. And I hope it made you think a little bit. And can't wait till we get to talk about stuff that we love. Mary Stone's finally got her new laptop, so we'll be able to do some Doctor Who discussions. I'm going to see if I can talk with a few other people, see if we can do discussions about Star Trek, Star Wars, and a few other things. So we can talk about the things we love and express what we love about them and have fun with it. And who knows, we might even start talking about ways of fixing what's broke with it and try to breathe life back into franchises that to many people are dead. To me,
Well,
there's no such thing as a dead franchise if you got somebody that loves it and keeps it in their heart alive. Because in all honesty, Star Wars was dead for a long time. Ditto with Star Trek. But guess what? They came back. Doctor Who was gone for a very long time. But guess what? It came back. When you get good writers that and creatives that respect the fans and respect what came before, the franchise will bounce back. And hopefully we'll get to talk about that soon. So everybody, I hope you've had a good day. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to say?
well, outside of plugging my channel, which I can't seem to get YouTube. I can't seem to get my internet to run right now.
Let me see if I can find the link. Because if I remember right,
Is
dang
my
it.
link, a link to my channel should
Yeah.
be on. A link to one of my videos should be in the server.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find. It's not wanting to come up. Where did it go? I found the PC Gamer link, but I can't find the one you sent me. That's back to your channel. So where is it? There's one to Dominion, but that's not your channel. I'm sorry,
Should be.
brother.
It
I'm
should be
gonna
in
have
the
to.
actual. Should be in the actual server. Actually, I'll pull it up on my phone real quick.
All right. Because this is. Where did it go? Let's see. There's his. Oh, I found you.
You found it?
Yep. Okay. There we are. Got the link, and I am posting it for everybody. Here is your link. I'm going to have to put all of my links into one file so I can keep them where I can find them. But there's the link to your channel. So, plug away.
Well, right
Tell
now
everybody.
right now I'm starting my channel off with a casual playthrough of Ape Escape. Eventually, I'm going to lead into much more complicated things. I have a very specific personal story I want to tell, but I'm going to save that for much later after I know what I'm doing, after I figure out how I want to tell that story.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing gameplays with commentary, with the object being showing people that you can play and record games on YouTube without being a completionist and having to show every single detail just for the sake of having fun.
And that's what we need more in this world is people having fun and sharing it. That's one of the reasons why I like watching the people that post their play videos where they stream what they're doing, and I find that fun. I learn a lot about the games by watching them. It's I think this world could be a heck of a lot more fun if we shared what we love a lot more. And that's what I'm hoping everybody out there will do is share what you love, show your humanity, show that you're not the monster that people think you are. Be the change that you want in this world. Make things better by example. And if we all was to do that, I think this world would get a lot better. So y'all have a blessed evening. And tomorrow we will be having our Star Wars game. Hopefully everybody will be able to make it. So y'all be good and know that you're loved and you're not alone. Bye now.